Hey folks, Peter Uckes here. Have you been wanting to develop your public speaking? Have you been wanting to work on your leadership skills? Have you ever considered joining a Toastmasters meeting? If so, this is the right video for you. Now, you may have heard about Toastmasters before. It's an international organization for people who want to work on their public speaking, who want to work on their leadership skills. I've been a member of a local Toastmasters club for about a few months now, and I wanted to share with you what it is like to go to a Toastmasters Club meeting and what it is like to be a member of a Toastmasters Club, so that you can decide, if you're sitting on the fence, whether you want to attend a Toastmasters meeting near you. Now, Toastmasters is a very big international organization. You will almost certainly be able to find a Toastmasters Club near you. You can just go to toastmasters.org and search there. I'm sure you'll find a club near you. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about the sorts of people that go to a Toastmasters Club, in my experience, and also what a typical Toastmasters meeting is like. Now, the Toastmasters Club that I go to is called Fusion Toastmasters over here in Amsterdam, and it may not be representative of all Toastmasters clubs, but I'll share with you what I can. So, first of all, the thing you should know is people who go to Toastmasters and who are members of a Toastmasters Club are generally very accepting. Everybody is there because they want to improve themselves, because they want to develop themselves as a person, in particular to improve their public speaking. So it's a very constructive and supportive environment. Nobody will go there and destroy, you for not having a super polished speech or anything like that, right? You don't have to be a member to go to a Toastmasters Club meeting. You can go as a guest. At our Club Fusion in Amsterdam, guests can come 3 times. So you can actually check out a club several times before deciding whether to join. The membership fee, by the way, is not very much at all, somewhere along the lines of $100 or €100 or something like that per year, on that order of magnitude. Really not that much. So the people that come to Toastmasters, they want to develop themselves. They want to work on their public speaking, right? And they want to help you do the same thing. At a Toastmasters Club meeting, we all support each other and we give each other a lot of feedback. I'll tell you in a bit, I'll tell you a little bit more about how feedback works in Toastmasters. Now, the particular club that I go to is quite an informal club. There's a lot of structure to club meetings. We meet about 3 times a month, by the way, 3 evenings a month, and some other Toastmasters clubs might meet a little bit more often or a little bit less often. But there's a lot of structure, but we're very informal. People at my club, they don't wear suits, right, to the club. There are definitely Toastmasters clubs that are more formal and you'll get a more professional audience, but we have a mix of mostly young people, young men, young women, sort of in their 20s and 30s, and a few people that are in their 40s and 50s. But everybody is really chill, joking around with each other throughout the meeting, before the meeting. We often go for drinks after the meeting, so it's a very relaxed affair. Now, what does a Toastmasters meeting look like? And if you attend one as a guest, what can you expect? Now, the evening is centered around speeches. So there will usually be, in my club at least, 4 people who give a prepared speech that evening. Each of those people will have their speech evaluated by someone who we call the evaluator. And both the speaker, speaker stands in front of the audience, right, in front of the group and delivers their speech. The evaluator afterwards also goes up to the front and evaluates that person's speech publicly in front of the group. This is a very useful means of feedback. But in addition to the official evaluation, that way, the formal evaluation that happens during the meeting, we also give each other feedback, both things that went really well and things that the speaker might be able to improve on after the meeting or during the meeting, but just one-on-one. We just write our feedback on a piece of paper and hand that slip of paper to the person who spoke, or we leave feedback online. Toastmasters has a system for that. So that's what the meetings are centered around, but there's a lot more going on. So let me tell you about that. Now, when you walk into a Toastmasters Club meeting, at least if it's anything like my Toastmasters Club meetings, first you'll be greeted by the host. There is a Toastmaster of the evening, the person who is in charge of this particular club meeting. So there's a lot of roles in a Toastmasters Club meeting. And as members, we try to take a role most of the time. So you might be a speaker, you might be an evaluator, you might be the Toastmaster of the evening. You might have a supporting role, such as counting how many times people say or like, basically that sort of stuff, filler words. You might be the general evaluator for the evening, someone who comments on what the evening was like as a whole. Or you might be the timekeeper, someone who sits there and lets the speaker, who is currently on stage, know when they hit the minimum time for their speech, when they hit the ideal time for their speech, or when they hit the maximum time for their speech. So there's a lot of different roles going on. So let me walk through the basic structure. You walk in, you'll probably be greeted by some of the members and some of the hosts. The meeting will start, and often our meetings start with an introduction by both the president of our local club and by the Toastmaster of the evening. Our club, by the way, has around 40 or 50 members, which I think is big. I think a Toastmasters club on average is maybe more like 20 or 30 members. We usually have about 20 or 30 people showing up, members and guests. So after the Toastmaster of the evening and the president open the evening, the Toastmaster of the evening will say what the theme for this particular night is. So every meeting of ours has a theme, and it could be like traveling in space or something, whatever, some theme. And throughout the evening, we will be making references to those themes, and some of the parts of the particular club meeting will be tied back into that theme. So that's pretty fun. Then we usually do a round robin, a bit of a warm up where everybody gets up one by one, states their name and says, hey, I'm a guest here, or hey, I'm a member here. We usually play a word association game. So I might say potato, and then the person next to me says the first word that comes up in their mind when I say potato. They say something and we just go through the room that way, just to get everybody warmed up a little bit. After we do that, we jump straight into the prepared speeches. So we've got 4 people delivering a prepared speech. Now, Toastmasters is very structured. So people are doing what's called a pathway. So someone might be doing a pathway that helps them develop a humorous kind of speech, or that helps them develop a motivational kind of speech. So often people will get an instruction for the sort of speech that they're about to deliver today. It could be an instruction such as present a speech on any topic, but it could also be an instruction such as use evidence and cite evidence to teach people something about a topic that you didn't know of before like outlining, preparing your speech, which is pretty cool. So you'll know this because there'll be an agenda and it'll be printed and you get it on a clipboard, right, at the meeting, and it'll tell you what the goal of this person's speech is. So 4 people will deliver their speech. Maybe a speech is anywhere between like 4 and 12 minutes. It depends on the kind of speech that people are giving. After we have those 4 speeches, we have the 4 evaluators, 1 for each of the speakers. They each go up and they say what they liked and what could have been a little bit better in this particular speech that they're evaluating. And they do this in a very structured way too. Now, at the end of the evening, and we're not there yet, but I just want to mention this now, there will be a section where people get awards. So every evening at our club meeting, we award someone the Best Speaker award. And there's also a Best Evaluator award, which is funny. I want to show you this now. Oh, I dropped it. Here we go. This is actually my Best Evaluator ribbon that I got at my previous, just my last Toastmasters club meeting, because people liked my evaluation, which is pretty fun, of someone else's speech. So there's a Best Speaker and a Best Evaluator. And after the evaluators, we typically do the voting on that as well. But then we have one of my favorite parts of the Toastmasters club meeting, and this is called Table Topics. So Table Topics is a section of the evening in which people have an opportunity to do an impromptu speech, an improvised speech. So someone is in charge of Table Topics. They're the Table Topics master. And the Table Topics master will say, so-and-so person, will you please come up on the stage and talk between 1 and 2 minutes about this topic? And so sometimes those things are a little bit random. One of the table topics I had to do once, my instruction was talk about Bulgaria, which, I had to improvise a lot there because I don't know much about Bulgaria. Fortunately, I knew a Bulgarian person that I could talk about though. But other times the speech instructions are a lot more elaborate. So you find yourself in a moral quandary. What would you do in a situation like that? Would you help this person or not? Or would you help that person or this person? Pretty fun. And because it's improvised, it gives people the opportunity to practice thinking on their feet and speaking in a way that is not rehearsed. It also means, because there's this improvised section of the evening, that not only the people who were on the schedule to deliver a prepared speech will actually have a chance to speak. You will have a chance to speak, or you might have a chance to speak in any Toastmasters meeting that you go to. Now, because you might be considering attending your first ever Toastmasters meeting as a guest, I want to say, as a guest, you do not have to get up and speak. At our club, at least, when a member gets called to the front during this improvised section, during Table Topics, we expect the member to answer the prompt and deliver a 1 to 2 minute speech improvised. But guests are always allowed to refuse. Now, we do see that most of our guests are excited or will actually volunteer well, not most, many will volunteer to do one of the improvised speeches, and we think that's really fun to see, but you don't have to. So if you're worried about going, and if it's a big step for you to go to a Toastmasters meeting, don't worry, you don't have to go on stage if you don't want to, and you may not even be asked to. So it may be that they call for volunteers and you can just not volunteer, no problem at all. You can definitely just see what it's like and see whether you have a good time and just observe. So after this improvised part of the evening, we'll do the evaluations. The general evaluator will come up on the stage. We'll also have people in the supporting roles talking about what they saw. So for example, one of the supporting roles is that there is a grammarian for the evening. The grammarian pays attention to particularly good use of language and also language that could perhaps be improved. We have a lot of people who have English as a second language or third or fourth or whatever language in our club. So often we have a native speaker or close to native speaker grammarian who helps people correct phrases that they didn't use properly. So that can be really valuable as well. Now, after the supporting roles report on what they saw, and after the general evaluator reports on what they saw of the evening, we'll do the awards like best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topic speech also. That's the third one that we always give. The best improvised speech, you can also get an award for that. Very fun, get a ribbon. So after that happens, the evening is drawing to a close, and there's one more thing that I'm really fond of, which we call memory master. So one person in our club is always in charge of being the memory master, and they pay attention to the whole evening to what people say, whether they are people delivering a prepared speech, evaluators, the Toastmaster of the evening, anybody who says anything. This memory master will record a lot of these things that people said, and then stand in front of the room and say, who said this? And then the first person who either points at the person who said it or says the name of the person who said that thing gets a piece of candy. Just to encourage people to pay attention throughout the meeting and to challenge everybody to think back to what they heard and who said what. Very nice part of the evening, in my opinion. So after that, the evening draws to a close, and we usually go for drinks. The whole thing takes about 2 hours, maybe a little bit longer. Well, if you count the drinks, it can last longer, obviously. So if you're considering going to your first ever Toastmasters meeting, know that it may not be exactly the same. It may not have exactly the same structure as what I'm telling you now, but it will probably be pretty structured. My club is pretty informal. If you're worried about a club not being formal enough for your liking, or being too formal for your liking, just inquire ahead of time a little bit. But I would recommend, if you're on the fence, just attend a Toastmasters meeting. There's very little downside to it for you. Like I said, you may be asked to go on stage, but you can definitely decline politely if you don't feel like it, or you may not be asked to go on stage at all. It may work with a volunteer system. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. And you'll probably meet a lot of cool people who are interested in developing themselves, and if that's something that you're into as well, then I would highly recommend it. So, only thing I can do is encourage you again, check out some of the local Toastmasters clubs near you, be a guest at some of these clubs, and if you like it, sign up as a member. Have fun.